The galaxy shook. It was not just the rumble of engines or the pulse of energy cannons. It was the silent weight of fear that spread from one star system to another as the Empire unveiled its largest fleet. Millions of soldiers stood ready in armored carriers. War machines the size of mountains descended from orbit. Weapons of mass destruction gleamed in the void like jagged stars. This was no ordinary conquest. This was a message. The Empire wanted the galaxy to watch as it crushed another world into dust. And the target was not a great empire or a powerful trading hub. No, this time the Empire chose a small, forgotten planet on the edge of nowhere. That planet was called Earth. Most alien species barely knew it existed. A blue world orbiting a yellow star, home to one stubborn race. For centuries, Earth had been ignored. But Earth's people had resisted the Empire's demand for submission. They had refused tribute. They had sent back the messengers with their heads broken and their pride unbent. For the Empire, that was enough. Defiance could not be tolerated. So the Emperor himself decreed, bring Earth to its knees. Show the galaxy what happens to those who say no. As the first waves of ships slipped into Earth's orbit, countless alien eyes watched through hidden sensors and broadcast channels. Entire civilizations tuned in, waiting for the quick fall of this primitive species. They whispered among themselves, "It will be over in hours. The Empire thought so too." But on the surface of Earth, silence ruled. No surrender message came. No white flags rose from the ruins of cities. The humans did not beg. Instead, they prepared. In underground bunkers, in shattered buildings, in forests and mountains they gathered. Special forces trained in secret. Old weapons were cleaned and made ready. Traps were built. Maps studied. Signals shared in silence. When the first alien dropships screamed through the clouds, carrying thousands of soldiers armed with weapons that had ended dozens of wars, the humans did not run. They waited. The landing zone was chosen carefully by the invaders. A ruined industrial sector, outside what had once been a proud human city. The Empire believed it would be an easy place to secure, a foothold from which to march deeper inland. Soldiers poured out, armored in shining plates, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Then the shadows moved. The first strike came from above. A rooftop exploded as humans leapt down, their rifles spitting fire. Alien soldiers fell in the first seconds, their bodies collapsing before they could even raise their shields. Grenades rolled into formation lines, tearing through armor. The air filled with the thunder of close combat as human fighters, lean and silent, rushed in with knives and improvised blades. The aliens screamed, not in rage, but in shock. They had fought many wars, conquered countless species, but they had never seen this before. The humans did not fight like prey. They did not fight like soldiers defending their homes. They fought like predators unleashed, with a fury that made even the most hardened warrior stumble back in fear. The Empire's commander bellowed orders, but chaos spread too fast. Humans struck from every direction, moving with uncanny coordination. Explosives hidden in walls tore apart squads. Snipers on distant towers cut down officers before they could regroup. Within minutes, the landing force that had arrived with such confidence was reduced to a broken, panicked mob, and still, the humans pressed forward. One alien officer, wounded and crawling, stared up at the figure that stepped through smoke and fire. A human soldier, face hidden by dirt and blood, raised a blade slick with alien ichor. The officer gasped, "Why?" "You cannot win. The Empire cannot be stopped." The soldier's answer was cold, almost whispered. "We don't care." The blade fell above the battlefield. Drones recorded everything. The Empire wanted the galaxy to see its triumph. Instead, the galaxy saw something it had never expected. They saw an army built to crush entire civilizations falter before men and women armed with nothing more than rifles, knives, and unbroken will. The battle raged for hours. By the time the smoke cleared, the ground was littered with thousands of alien dead. The humans had vanished back into the ruins, leaving behind nothing but destruction and fear. From orbit, the Empire's generals stared at the reports. Their strongest soldiers had been defeated in the very first clash. Their landing unit had been annihilated. They had expected to break Earth in hours. Instead, Earth had drawn blood from the greatest army in history. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was an accident. Others wondered if the humans had some hidden technology. But a few, the ones who had fought and suffered under the Empire for centuries, leaned closer to their screens and whispered something dangerous. Maybe the Empire can bleed. On Earth? In the silence after the storm, the humans prepared for the next wave. They knew the Empire would come back, stronger, angrier, with weapons meant to level entire continents. But they did not tremble, because now the galaxy had seen the truth. The humans would not surrender, and the Empire's nightmare was only beginning. The Empire did not understand what had happened. Armies that had swept across half the galaxy had been cut down by what their records called a primitive species. To the generals, it was unthinkable. To the Emperor, it was an insult. In orbit, massive carriers hummed as they prepared the next wave. Commanders argued over how such a failure could have happened. Some claimed it was chance, a mistake of poor terrain. Others said the humans had hidden alien allies. But the Emperor's message was clear: no excuses. Crush them. So they sent more troops, 10 times more. Armored divisions, machines of war that had burned entire cities to ash on other worlds, rumbled down from orbit. Their cannons glowed with energy, powerful enough to tear through mountains. On Earth, people watched the skies turn red with fire as the invaders descended. But there was no panic, no surrender. Instead, radios crackled with short-coded words. Traps were triggered. Shadows moved through ruins. Humanity was ready. The first armored column rolled into a deserted highway. The aliens advanced slowly, confident this time, scanning every building and road with drones. But the silence itself was a trap. Then the Earth exploded. Mines hidden beneath broken pavement tore through the lead vehicles. Homemade rockets fired from sewer grates and collapsed bridges. Soldiers emerged from the smoke, moving fast, aiming for weak points, striking with precision. The aliens returned fire, their cannons leveling buildings and sending shockwaves through the city. But the humans never fought head-on. They vanished into rubble, into tunnels, into the very Earth itself. The city became a maze of death. For every human that fell, 10 aliens died. Alien commanders cursed as their communications were hacked. Human signals filled their channels, taunting them, spreading false orders. Squads marched straight into ambushes, believing they were following their leaders. War machines turned on each other after sabotage. An alien soldier cornered a human fighter in the wreck of a building. He snarled, raising his weapon. The human, bloodied and breathing hard, didn't back away. Instead, he charged, slamming into the alien with nothing but a knife. Both fell, but only the human rose again, his eyes cold and determined. The survivors carried whispers back to their officers. One phrase spread quickly through the ranks, carried on trembling lips: they don't fear death. On other worlds, conquered species had always begged for mercy when faced with the Empire. They had surrendered, broken, terrified of what would come. But humans were different. They fought as if death meant nothing. They fought as if the only victory was to kill as many invaders as possible before they themselves fell. In orbit, reports came in faster than the generals could read them. Entire regiments had vanished in ruins. War machines had been destroyed by improvised explosives. Squads had been torn apart by hidden snipers and ghostly shadows. The casualties were not hundreds now, but tens of thousands. One commander slammed his fist against the table, shouting, "This is not possible! They should be broken already." But another, older voice, quieter and colder, replied, "Maybe they are not like the others. Maybe they are something worse." Down on Earth, the resistance spread. Farmers left their fields to carry rifles. Mechanics turned machines into weapons. Children carried messages through the ruins, while old men set traps in forests. Every human, no matter how weak, became part of the war. The Empire began to feel something they had not felt in generations: fear. For the first time, soldiers hesitated before stepping into transports. They looked down at the blue planet below and remembered the whispers. They remembered the blood-stained streets. They remembered the humans' eyes, cold, unyielding, unafraid. In hidden places across the galaxy, enslaved peoples watched the broadcasts and dared to hope. If humans could resist, if humans could make the Empire bleed, maybe others could too. Back on Earth, as night fell, fires burned in the distance. Cities smoldered but still stood. In a shattered command post, human leaders gathered around a flickering map. They were exhausted, wounded, and hungry. Yet their voices were steady. One soldier, her face scarred and blackened with soot, whispered the truth aloud. "They thought we would surrender. They thought we would be like all the others. She looked around at the tired, determined faces. They don't understand us yet. They don't understand humans. Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from the movement of alien machines preparing for yet another assault. The war did not stop at the ruins of one city. It spread like fire across Earth. The Empire escalated, furious that their forces had been humiliated twice. Entire fleets were ordered to orbit the planet, covering the skies with steel and flame. From those carriers came the heaviest divisions: armored walkers, shielded transports, flying drones armed with plasma cannons. This was the kind of army that had erased civilizations from history. The galaxy watched in silence. Billions tuned in to the live feeds. For many, it was entertainment. Another doomed resistance crushed beneath the Empire's heel. But others leaned closer, waiting, wondering if humans would fall like the rest. On the ground, Earth burned. Cities turned into battlefields. The invaders leveled whole districts, leaving nothing but smoking rubble. But where the Empire thought destruction would bring surrender, humans turned ruins into weapons. The streets became mazes. Broken buildings became fortresses. From shattered windows, snipers hunted. From tunnels beneath the Earth, squads struck with grenades and vanished again. The aliens learned a new kind of war. It was not the clean, disciplined conquest they were used to. It was chaos. Every step forward cost blood. Every block won was soaked in fear, and then came the skies. Alien warships circled above, untouchable, raining fire. But one night, in the middle of a burning city, a squadron of old human jets roared into the air. They were decades behind alien technology, relics that should have been useless. Yet the humans flew with reckless courage, weaving through storms of plasma. Closing distance no sane pilot would dare. The world watched as those outdated machines tore through the sky and smashed into alien bombers. Explosions lit the clouds. For the first time in history, alien warships fell to human hands. In underground command centers, generals of the Empire shouted in disbelief. "How can they fight us with toys?" one demanded. But the truth was spreading through every rank. Humans didn't fight with machines. They fought with will. The Empire adapted, sending new weapons into the field. Drones swarmed cities like metal locusts. Yet within days, human hackers broke into their systems, turning them against their masters. Armored columns were lured into dead ends where bridges collapsed under their weight. Each victory was small, but each one added up. And each one carried a message. The Empire was not invincible. Fear began to seep into the alien soldiers. Some refused to step onto landing craft. Others whispered that Earth was cursed. The humans did not fight for territory or even survival. They fought to kill. They fought to prove a point, that no invader would walk their soil without paying in blood. From distant worlds, enslaved peoples sent secret messages. They called Earth a spark, a fire against the darkness. In the ruins of a once great capital, a human leader stood before a band of exhausted fighters. His uniform was torn, his face scarred, but his eyes burned bright. "They send more each day," he said, voice low but steady. "And each day we survive. They call us weak. They call us primitive. Let them. Because every hour we fight, every alien that falls, the galaxy sees the truth." The fighters raised their weapons, battered but unbroken. High above, in the Empire's war room, silence fell as reports piled up. Not hundreds, not thousands, but entire regiments lost. War machines destroyed by people who should not have had the power to resist. One general whispered the words that no one else dared speak. "If this spreads, if others rise like the humans, the Empire may not survive." And on Earth, amid the smoke and the fire, the humans prepared for the next wave. The war was no longer just about one planet. It was about the future of the galaxy. The Empire's fury grew with each defeat. On worlds across the galaxy, people whispered that Earth had done the impossible, resisted longer than anyone thought possible. The Emperor, enraged, ordered a weapon of final judgment to be deployed. It was called the Planet Killer, a device the size of a city, carried in the belly of a massive dreadnought. Its purpose was simple: erase entire civilizations in one strike. It had turned thriving planets into ashes before. No world had ever survived its fire. From orbit, the dreadnought hung above Earth like a black sun. The Empire's generals assured themselves this would end it. The humans had fought well, yes, but no courage, no blade, no rifle could stand against the power of a star's death. On the ground, humans felt the rumble of the sky splitting open. Reports spread quickly. An impossible weapon was being prepared. Yet no one fled. No one surrendered. Instead, voices carried across radio networks, calm and sharp. Find it. Stop it. A plan was born. Desperate, reckless, human. Special forces gathered in silence, their faces pale but their eyes steady. They would not wait to die. They would strike first. At night, under a storm of fire from the skies, stolen alien transports rose into the air. Pilots guided them with trembling hands, weaving through patrols, moving toward the giant dreadnought. Every second was borrowed time. On board, the humans crept through metal halls lit by the pulse of alien energy. They carried nothing advanced, just blades, explosives, and stolen rifles. But they moved like shadows, cutting down guards, planting charges, racing toward the heart of the weapon. The galaxy held its breath. Millions watched through hacked feeds as humans fought inside the monster ship itself. Explosions shook the dreadnought. Flames licked its vast hull. Then a single broadcast broke through the noise. Target sabotaged. Get clear. The next moment, the night sky turned white. The planet killer shuddered, cracked, and died in orbit, breaking apart into burning fragments that rained harmlessly into the ocean below. On Earth, cheers echoed through bunkers and ruins. Humanity had done the impossible again. They had stopped a weapon no one else in history had ever stopped, but the cost was heavy. Entire squads had not returned. Families grieved in silence, even as they celebrated survival. Yet through grief came steel. For every loss, resolve grew deeper. In the Empire's War Council, silence reigned. The Emperor himself, face cold and unreadable, stared at the reports. "Find me the Crimson Legion," he finally ordered. The room chilled. The Crimson Legion was more than an army. They were the Empire's elite, cybernetic warriors bred for destruction, a force that had never once been defeated. Their name alone brought terror. Now they were coming to Earth, but humanity did not flinch. They had faced impossible odds before. They had seen weapons meant to end worlds. And they were still alive. The turning point had come. The war was no longer about how long humans could last. It was about whether the Empire itself could survive them. The galaxy trembled when the order spread. The Crimson Legion was being deployed. They were not just soldiers. They were legends, half flesh, half machine, trained from birth to kill without hesitation. Their armor was forged from alloys no weapon had pierced. Their blades had ended rebellions across star systems. For centuries, the Crimson Legion had been the Empire's final answer, the hammer that crushed all defiance. Now that hammer was descending on Earth. Alien broadcasters whispered it with awe. Conquered species felt their hope falter. If even the Crimson Legion marched, then surely humanity would be finished. No one had ever stood against them. No one had ever survived them. The invasion began at dawn. The Legion's dropships cut through the clouds like burning meteors. When they landed, the ground itself cracked under their weight. Rows of crimson-armored warriors stepped out in silence, their eyes glowing cold behind their visors. They expected another quick slaughter. Instead, the ruins came alive. The humans struck without warning. Explosives hidden in sewers tore through the Legion's vehicles. Whole buildings collapsed on top of advancing squads. From every alley and rooftop, gunfire rained down. The Legion staggered, not defeated but surprised. Then the close combat began. For the first time in history, the Crimson Legion faced enemies who refused to break. Humans met them face to face, blade against blade, rifle against armor. Even when a single Legion warrior cut down 5, 10, 20 fighters, the humans kept coming. They swarmed, overwhelmed, sacrificed themselves so that others could strike. An alien war drone recorded the chaos. It showed something unthinkable. A human soldier driving a knife into the joint of a Legion warrior's armor, bringing the giant down. Blood and sparks burst together. The other humans had found a weakness. Whispers raced through the galaxy. Only humans can kill the Crimson Legion. The battles grew fiercer. Entire city blocks became traps. Civilians poured boiling oil, dropped rubble, or lured Legion patrols into kill zones. Every home turned into a fortress. Every street became a battlefield. And the unthinkable continued to happen. The Crimson Legion, undefeated for centuries, began to fall. One here, one there, always at a cost, always with human blood spilled alongside them. But still they fell. In orbit, the Empire's generals stared at the reports in disbelief. Their unstoppable warriors were bleeding on Earth's soil. For the first time, their invincibility cracked. Among the human resistance, hope surged. Soldiers whispered to each other in the dark, "They're not gods. They're not monsters. They can die." But the war was far from won. For every Legion warrior slain, 100 more pressed forward. Cities were reduced to ash. Entire populations were wiped out. The humans were paying a price no other race could endure, and yet they endured. In a ruined church-turned-command post, a human leader stood before his weary fighters. His voice was hoarse but strong. "They sent their strongest against us. They thought fear would break us. But we've killed the Crimson Legion. Do you hear me? We've killed the Empire's ghosts." The soldiers raised their weapons, exhausted but burning with fire. Far above, in the halls of the Imperial Palace, the Emperor listened to the reports in silence. His most perfect weapon had been wounded. His flawless army had bled. His face hardened. "If the Legion cannot crush them," he said coldly, "then burn the world to ashes." The order was given. The Empire would not fight to win anymore. It would fight to destroy. The Emperor's face did not change. His voice, cold and calm, carried the final command through the halls of power. Destroy the world. Spare nothing. It was not a plan to win the war. It was a plan to erase a problem. If Earth would not bow, then Earth would be erased from the charts. Fleet commanders read the order and felt their stomachs tighten. They had never been told to waste their own men like this. But orders were not for arguing. The first volleys tore at the atmosphere. Orbital guns the size of mountains woke and fired. City after city burned. Whole coastlines boiled. The night sky turned paper white with explosions that fell like meteors. The message was clear. The Empire would not kneel to anyone. It would leave only ash for those who dared. Down below, people ran. Families fled through smoke. Soldiers fought with faces streaked with ash. The bunkers filled. Tunnels that had once been used for food and water became arteries of resistance. The world was shrinking into hidden rooms and secret paths. The Empire expected surrender when fire broke the surface. They expected silence. They expected fear to turn the humans into the others. They were wrong. In the deepest bunkers, where light rarely reached, human leaders met by the glow of makeshift maps. Their clothes were rags. Their hands shook, yet their voices were steady. One of them said plainly, "They want to burn us. Then we will not give them the city or the power. We will bring them down." The plan was brutal and simple. If the Empire would burn the world, humans would make their deaths costly. They would not hide and wait to be counted. They would hit the Empire where it bled. In space, pilots volunteered without asking for medals. Mechanics worked without sleep to rebuild broken ships. Hackers that once sold code to smugglers now coded strikes that could not be traced. Old satellites were turned into weapons. Little by little, the Resistance stitched a new kind of army, one made from scraps, will, and the lessons learned in every skirmish so far. The first human raids were small and deadly. Fighters rose from hidden airfields and dove at the legs of carrier ships. They rammed, they crashed, they set bombs that burned through hulls. Human hackers sent false coordinates to the Empire's guns. A battery would fire on a phantom target, while a real strike hit a fragile engine array. Each successful raid made the Emperor angrier. He ordered more fire. He threw entire fleets at Earth, eager to crush the spark he feared. Whole regiments were given to flak and bombardment duty. Planets that had supported the Empire for centuries lost ships and men to a war they had thought would never touch them. Across the stars, the broadcasts from Earth did something no single message had done before. They moved people. Enslaved races paused while they watched the small blue planet fight back. In the shadow of imperial rule, slaves hid these images from overseers, and the quiet question spread. Why did the Empire send so many to die? On several worlds, small uprisings began. Workers sabotaged factories that fed the war machine. Soldiers who had been away from Earth looked at the feeds and felt their training waver. The Emperor sent more troops to crush these sparks. He burned entire districts to punish disloyalty. But the more he burned, the more the galaxy remembered what it was like to be free. Back on Earth, the cost was heavy. Many cities lay empty, their people gone or dead. The ground itself was scarred. But every time the Empire destroyed a neighborhood, humans found a new place to fight. Old men who had lived through starvation took up rifles. Women who had lost children learned to aim rockets. Children carried messages and ammunition. The war became every human's work. One night, a convoy moved through a valley lit by red sky. The convoy carried wounded and old machines. A squad of human pilots watched the convoy from a ridge. They were tired. They had flown more sorties than they could count. Yet when the convoy passed under the ridge, the pilots did not think of home. They thought only of the next strike. "We won't let them erase this," a pilot said, fingers cold on the controls. "We'll make them pay for every star they want to burn." They flew that night and hit a repair yard where the Empire fixed its fighters. The explosion took out hundreds of ready ships. It also took lives, human and alien both. No one rejoiced. They only kept going. The Emperor saw each loss like a wound to his pride. He called for new horrors, biochemical clouds that would strip life from fields, automated armies that swallowed entire towns. He wanted the planet silent, scrubbed clean of human noise, yet the human noise never stopped. If anything, it grew louder. Songs of defiance leaked from bunkers. Voices tuned hacked channels to speak hope into the dark. Stories of small victories spread like medicine. Each tale became a promise. We will not vanish. In the Empire's councils, the talk changed from disgust to real fear. War rooms hummed with the possibility that their greatest fleets, their finest soldiers, might not be enough. The Emperor, however, only tightened his fist. He ordered the fleet commanders to prepare for a final campaign. The command was not just to destroy. This time it would be an attack to break the human will entirely, or to die trying. Far from the vessels and the guns on a shattered plateau, a human child looked up at the burning sky and whispered, as if the words could cross the void. "We are not afraid." That whisper spread not as noise but as a force. It crossed the stars. It reached the ears of those who had been quiet too long. The Empire's desperation had changed the war into something new. It had made the fight no longer about a single planet, but about who would decide the future of many. The final storm was coming. Both sides felt it. Both sides prepared. Only one thing was certain in the growing silence between storms. This war would not end in quiet. The Empire had promised victory. Its leaders swore to the galaxy that humans would be erased, their defiance crushed forever. But now, the last of the Empire's grand fleet burned in orbit, glowing wrecks circling Earth like dying stars. And still the humans stood. On the ground, the final battle raged. The Empire's remaining legions, millions of soldiers bred for war, launched one desperate strike. They descended in waves, burning forests and cities, determined to grind Earth into ash. The commanders ordered no mercy. If they could not conquer, they would annihilate, but humanity was ready. For weeks, Earth's armies had united. Old rivalries between nations disappeared. American jets flew beside Russian bombers. African armored divisions marched with Asian artillery. Europe's satellites guided South American missile strikes. Humanity was one weapon, forged in fire. The aliens landed near the ruins of Berlin. The city was already a scar from earlier battles, and now it became the heart of the war. The Empire's machines, towering walkers bristling with cannons, marched forward. The ground shook as the first volleys turned entire blocks into rubble. Thousands of humans died in seconds, yet the survivors held the line. From underground bunkers, human resistance fighters rose, carrying weapons salvaged from dead alien soldiers. From rooftops, snipers picked off commanders. Even civilians fought, throwing firebombs at the invaders, dragging wounded comrades to safety. And then came the unexpected. Hidden deep within Earth's networks, human hackers struck. They unleashed viruses into the Empire's systems, blinding their targeting sensors, shutting down their orbital support. Empire soldiers looked to the sky for reinforcements, but none came. Their ships were burning, their commands silent. The Empire's general, a creature bred in laboratories, stood upon his command platform, watching the chaos. His war plan had collapsed. In fury, he ordered his elite guard forward, determined to crush the humans himself. The guard, massive warriors in living armor, tore through the battlefield like monsters from nightmares, but even they could not stop humanity. For every human that fell, 3 more took their place. For every city destroyed, 2 more rose in defiance. The general's forces pushed into Berlin's center, but there, waiting in silence, stood Earth's special forces. The same soldiers who had struck first when the war began. They moved like shadows, silent and merciless. Explosives ripped through the alien guard. Gunfire cut down armored giants. The general roared, his fury shaking the air, but the humans did not stop. They fought with a cold, terrifying focus, like predators who knew the hunt was theirs. The battle reached its peak when the general himself charged into the ruins. He swung his plasma blade, cutting through walls, killing dozens with each strike. He laughed, believing no human could match him. But then, from the smoke, a lone soldier stepped forward. His armor was battered, his rifle empty, but he carried a human-made weapon, a simple blade of steel. The general mocked him. But the soldier did not speak. He moved faster than the alien thought possible, dodging the strikes, closing the distance. With one final roar, the human drove the blade deep into the general's chest. Alien blood hissed against the ground as the monster fell. The fall of their general broke the Empire's last army. Across the battlefield, the invaders dropped their weapons. Some tried to flee, but humans hunted them down. Others surrendered, staring at their conquerors with disbelief. By nightfall, silence fell over Berlin. Smoke rose into the sky. The earth was in ruins, cities broken, millions dead. But the humans were still there. Still alive. Still fighting. Across the galaxy, alien races watched the impossible unfold. The strongest army in history had been defeated. The empire, which had ruled for centuries, was broken. By humans, the species everyone had thought weak and primitive. Fear spread faster than light. If the empire could fall to Earth, what chance did anyone else have? And among the survivors, the humans stood together in the ruins. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. They buried their dead, rebuilt their homes, and prepared. For they knew the galaxy was watching. Other empires would come. Other enemies would test them. But now the truth was known. Humanity was no prey. Humanity was the predator. And from this day forward, the galaxy would remember. The Empire sent their strongest army. Only humans survived. The general's charge was the last gamble of the Empire. He tore through walls and fire, cutting down anyone in his path. His plasma blade screamed with each swing, and his voice carried across the battlefield like thunder. But the humans did not retreat. They surrounded him, attacking from every angle. The clash of steel and alien energy filled the ruins. Then one soldier broke through, a battered fighter with nothing left but a steel blade. With impossible speed, he struck true, piercing the general's chest. The monster fell. His death cry echoed through Berlin and into orbit, where the last alien ships drifted powerless. Across the battlefield, the Empire's soldiers froze. Leaderless, cut off and broken, they surrendered or died. The war was over. Humanity had done the impossible, yet victory brought silence, not celebration. The humans stood in the ashes of their cities, mourning the millions lost. Still, they had survived what no other race could, and the galaxy knew it. From hidden corners of space, alien nations whispered in fear. If Earth could destroy the Empire's strongest army, who could stand against them? Soon, transmissions flooded Earth's skies. Some were cries of warning. Some were offers of alliance. Others were threats from powers too proud to accept humanity's rise. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never again see Earth as weak. In the United Nations war chamber, leaders gathered in dim light. The world was scarred but united like never before. Plans were made not just for rebuilding, but for defending the planet against the storms to come, because humans knew the truth. The Empire was only the beginning. Humanity had survived the unthinkable, and now they were no longer trapped on one fragile world. They would rise. They would reach the stars. And every empire that thought to crush them would learn the same lesson. The Empire had sent their strongest army. Only humans survived, but this was not the end. It was the dawn of humanity's age.